the breaking news of what's going on right now, because moments ago we've learned that Iran halts indirect talks and message exchanges with the United States. Citing, they're talking about Lebanon, and they said that as long as they have these sort of attacks on Lebanon and Gaza, there will be no talk between Iran and the United States. And what would be their Iran and the resistance front have also reported they want, if something goes on and if they, because Israeli wants to attack the southern part of Beirut in Dahia, and there are many people there. Somehow it's impossible to evacuate all of those people in Dahia. And they said, here is what Iran said about they're going to close all these choke points, the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandab, all together, and everything going to get back to what it was during the war. But the difference right now is going to be Bab el-Mandab going to join, and it means that Yemen is going to join the fight. Where are we headed, in your opinion, and what's going on in the West Asia?
Well, we need to cue up the old musical. Again, this is before you were born, The Music Man. We got trouble. We got trouble right here in River City.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got trouble. Well, the entire, Israel has been violating the ceasefire now for 2 weeks, but it's like over the course of the last 5 days, it's gotten worse. They, because remember going back to April, was it April 14th, 15th? There was that initial ceasefire agreement between the United States and Iran. So basically U.S. and Israel stopped bombing Iran. And that was around April 7th, April 8th. And it took another 3 or 4 days before, the Iranian position was, hey, this, you've got to include Lebanon and the attacks on Palestinians. That's got to stop. So that went into effect. I think that held for basically like 5 days, maybe a couple of weeks, and there were some abuses, violations of that ceasefire, but it's now there's no ceasefire. Israel's back at full-blown war, full attacks on Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is firing back with missiles, rockets, and drones into northern Israel. So that war that's back on full heat. And so with Iran taking this position, linking the two. And so that is what's so new about this whole situation, that the Iranians now are linking what goes on in Lebanon and in Israel to any kind of agreement with the United States. You can't separate them. You can't pretend, that this is just about a conflict between the United States and Iran. No. The lives of the Palestinians are also, at least Iran is the only country in the world standing up, trying to do something for those people. And now maybe the Houthis will join. We'll see.
Yeah. What do they have, Larry, in the Middle East if something happens between Iran and the United States? From the Iranian sources, I've learned that they have brought a lot of weapons to the Middle East, even more than what they had before the war started on February 28th. And this is one part, the offensive part, the offensive front.
Right.
On the defensive, we have to see the combination of the defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities. What do we have right now in the Middle East?
Well, there are reports that, and they're not public reports. Let me change that. I have been told by someone who has access, or let's call it a knowledgeable. It'll be referred to as a knowledgeable source with access, that China has provided Iran with, at a minimum, a supersonic anti-ship missile, but also apparently some other significant ballistic missiles that were not previously, they're solid fuel, which makes them easier to load up and fire off. So yeah, Iran's in a position now with more weaponry than it had at the start of the war on February 28th. Let's think about it. We're looking at so we had March, April. It's gone over more than 3 months now. 3 months and 2 days, and this is one of the things that Iran didn't do much of during that first really 7 weeks of the war, or 5 weeks. They went because it was the missile exchanges were over a course of about 5-6 weeks, and then they got into the ceasefire, but did not aggressively go after the Israeli military airfields where these various planes are based. I wouldn't be surprised now to see that in this new phase. It's going to restart. It's going to restart this week. The United States is the attacks are going to step up on both shipping in the Persian Gulf. There will be attacks, I think, on U.S. naval vessels, and we're going to see, I think, more aggressive attacks by Iran on the airfields in Israel and in Jordan. So this is, I think the lull that we've had now going back, 8-9 weeks, that's over.
The question is, why does Israel need to attack Dahiya right now if the situation is going good in the southern part of Lebanon? If they're in a good position. And we've learned, Larry, from Hezbollah, they said an underground base belonging to Israel regime army. It says in this announcement by Hezbollah, in the occupied city of Tiberias was targeted with rocket fire. And it seems that 137 officers and soldiers were injured in this attack, as reported by Hezbollah.
So Hezbollah is saying that they hit and inflicted casualties on 137 Israelis?
137, but it counts all in the last 2 weeks. It says 137. It wasn't just one single attack.
Okay.
And it says 100. Yeah, that's the number for 2 weeks, and that's why many people are asking why does Israel need to attack Dahiya if they're doing great in the southern part of Lebanon, if they're crossing the Litani River. What is your answer to that?
Oh, no, I have no answer to that. It is just their idea is to kill and destroy as much as they can, and they see the Dahiya as a stronghold for Hezbollah, and therefore, for them, killing women, children, there's no such thing as civilians as far as the Zionists are concerned. So, they don't mind killing and flattening the area, just as they've done in Gaza. It is, what the government of Israel has been doing is a war crime of the highest order. It needs to be stopped, but the world is standing by doing nothing. Unfortunately, that has been typical throughout history. I mean, the Israelis, talk about the Holocaust and that, oh my God, that the Nazis tried to exterminate them, and the world knew about it, stood by and did nothing. The Houthis, when they were attacked by the Tutsis in Rwanda, again a massive massacre, 1 million people at least. The world, sort of complained a bit about it, but didn't take any kind of action to stop it. And now we've got we're going on 2.5 years of Israel murdering Palestinian women and children, primarily, and killing doctors, killing journalists, killing aid workers, and they're allowed to show up in polite company at the United Nations. They should be thrown out. Shouldn't be allowed anywhere near it. Should be isolated. Should be treated like a plague. Instead, they go along with it, and then they get the and go make their speeches at the UN and pretend that they're the victim.
Israeli media reported, Larry, that the United States has proposed an arrangement to Lebanon under which attacks on Beirut's southern suburbs, they're talking about Dahia, would cease in exchange for Hezbollah's refraining from targeting Israeli military forces in southern Lebanon. It somehow says if you, it's just unbelievable what they're doing. They're occupying the southern part of Lebanon right now. They're saying we're gonna hit Beirut and the southern part of Beirut, but if you don't want us to attack you to destroy the civilians, and you have to stop attacking us in the southern part of Lebanon, which they're occupying.
Right.
How ridiculous is that? Who's gonna? And Hezbollah rejected that. That's why.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, there's a Yiddish word for this: chutzpah, chutzpah, or as Michelle Bachmann, a former congresswoman in the United States, she called it chutzpah. But that's what it is. It's pure chutzpah on the part of the Israelis. That's along the lines of the kid that kills his parents and then pleads for mercy from the judge. Judge, you can't prosecute me. I'm an orphan. Yeah, you're an orphan because you killed your parents, you bastard. So here's Israel looking for leniency in the course of when people are responding to their attacks. And it's quite understandable that I can understand why they'd ask that. And maybe their calculation was, hey, we asked, what's the worst going to happen? They'll say no.
I think the situation is getting so serious, Larry, and we're going to have this war breaking out again. Here is what one of the senior Iranian officials said to the Fars News in Iran: the blood of a Palestinian equals to the blood of an Iranian, the blood of a Lebanese equals to the blood of an Iranian, and Muslim community is one joint column, side by side in this battle. And they're not going to give up on what they're asking for from the United States. And I don't see Donald Trump having any sort of solution for what's going on, because he has not shown us any sort of leverage on Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, I'm hoping that Iran was able to play the stock market on this, do what Trump's been doing. So Trump, over the last, now we're going on 13 weeks. What he would do is he would announce, hey, we got a peace agreement. This should be signed any day now. We're close. We're so close. And as a result, what would happen? The price of oil would go down. The price in the stock market would go up. And so by shorting stocks or buying puts where you could profit off of these changes. So if I'm Iran, I'd start by, I'd set up a company where you can put, invest billions and just come out and say, nope, hey, the negotiations are off. In fact, we're getting ready to deploy a nuclear weapon. Oh man, the stock market would go crazy. They could cash in on that, Now, I don't think they're doing that, but that would be, it's just a reminder that the other spillover effects of this conflict, that if you've been watching the U.S. stock market, it has been behaving as if there is an actual deal almost in the bag. It's close, so close. And, there have been some of us who are saying, no, that ain't happening. It's not true. Stop getting taken in by, this is another version of Donald Trump is like Lucy from the Charles Schultz, Charlie Brown cartoon. Lucy would hold out the football. Come on, Charlie, kick it. And Charlie would come running up and try to kick it. And she'd pull the ball away. He'd fly up in the air and land on his ass. That's been Donald Trump. Now, 13 weeks. Oh, we got a deal. It's almost, oh yeah, man, we're close. We're close. Now, as Ron said, we're not even talking to the United States now. There's nothing to talk about until the issues of the Palestinians and the Lebanese are addressed. Have a nice day.
I think there is no way
to. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Larry, I think there is no way to continue with the current situation in the West Asia, in the Persian Gulf, because we having this blockade on Iran, and sooner or later they're gonna have some sort of confrontation and escalation, and that's gonna be the war, the real war between Iran and the United States. Coming back to the main question, to the same question that I asked before, you forgot to mention that in your response, which is the capabilities, defensive capabilities on the part of Israel. Let's assume the war starts again. Mm-hmm. And how is that going to be, how the United States going to be able to defend Israel?
Well, defend it with what? Air defense systems, for example?
With the Patriot system, we know that Iron Dome is failing, every time. They cannot intercept even these rockets from Hezbollah.
Yeah, the Iron Dome is designed to intercept, let's call them subsonic rockets. It is not designed to deal with supersonic or hypersonic ballistic missiles. The fact of the matter is, neither is the Patriot missile, the PAC-3. It's not. It's proven ineffective. But let's say it was effective. The United States doesn't have enough. They have effectively run out. It just, all we can do is public accounting, and the total number of missiles in the U.S. inventory, the most generous assumptions would put it over 6,000, about 6,400 at the end of 2025. So as of 5 months ago. Now, since then, they've probably added, again, to be generous, another 300, 60 per month, 5 months. Maybe. Because the other, though, issue is China's cut off rare earth minerals, which are essential ingredients. It's like trying to bake a cake and not using any sugar or flour. You're not going to have a cake. So here's, but with that, 6,400, and then when you do the math, you've got to fire 2 Patriots at a minimum to intercept an incoming threat. So that means that 6,400 is capable of defeating 3,200 missiles fired. That's assuming that all of that was retained by the United States, except we know for a fact that at least 1,500 to 2,000 of those PAC-3 missiles went to foreign governments. Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Japan, Australia. So you subtract that. Well, now we're down to 4,400, which means, okay, we can intercept 2,200 missiles. Okay, how many? And we gave 1,000 in addition to the 2,000 sold to foreign governments. We gave another 1,000 to Ukraine. So that 1,000 missiles, that means they could intercept up to 500 incoming at targets by Russia. Well, hell, just last, was it a week ago? Russia fired equivalent of more than 500 missiles on one day. So you see, the numbers just don't add up. So this is the living with. The reality is that Israel and the United States do not have an effective air defense system. They don't have it. It does not exist.